fell in love with like the show. But then I kind of started getting a little bit more disinterested with it with season 2, just because of exactly as you said it is the writing. I think like if Veronica and Betty kind of was a little bit more season 1 still, and not try to grow up so fast, and not to I don't know, like I feel bad saying it, but they are growing up way too fast for this show.
And it's one of those things where are we okay having that discussion because we're a little bit older than high school?
Yeah.
Or is it just...
a little bit older, eh?
Or is it just something that, it's... the Betty and Veronica that we remember in the comic books.
Yeah.
They fought about Archie a lot high level, but really and truly, they had a really great...
friendship.
Hose before bros friendship. There was a real true sisterhood, and I saw a little bit of that in the first season, which is why I think I like them, but the second season they kind of just drifted apart. And I mean, it's
there was no more BNV, wasn't it?
No, and I mean it's normal to have times when you fight with your friends, but just kind of the way that their dynamic was, it just it wasn't working. And I think for me, I love Camila Mendes.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She's funny in real life, too.
I think she's a great actress, but I just don't think that the writers are doing her or Veronica justice, because everything, I feel like I just cringe every time Veronica says something, and it's not even her. It's not even how she delivers it. It's the fact that she is delivering it because the writers are giving her that kind of material to work with.
And you know what I had just found out, speaking of Veronica, is that this is her first acting, like, for realsies acting role.
Yeah, she kind of got it really lucky because she graduated from NYU, I believe, and I think she actually even went to school with Cole and Dylan Sprouse.
Oh, really?
So I don't think that they were in the same program, but they definitely had a couple classes together, I think, or might have been to a college party or two with each other. And yeah, this was her first kind of acting gig straight out of college, which is really cool. Yeah.
I mean, sure, lucky I'll say, but the girl does have talent. So
no, and you know what? Like, I think that Camila Mendes, I think all the girls here, Camila Mendes, Lily Reinhart, especially, Madeline Petch, I think that they all have really great attitudes, and I think that they're really good role models because Lily Reinhart is very outspoken about kind of the body issues that she has, and she knows the type of fans that she has. She knows the type of influence that she has. So for her to use her powers for good, I mean, it's very super cool. And I think if we had that kind of attitude or that kind of culture in the 90s, I mean, who knows, we could have, our magazines could have looked a lot more different than it did.
Yeah, for sure. She also creepily, every time I look at her, she reminds me of that
Brittany Murphy.
Like splitting image, man. I don't know if she knows that about herself. I'm sure
she does because she gets it a lot, actually.
Yeah, like creeps me out sometimes.
I mean, I will say what I love about Veronica is they made her character a Latina, and they made her both of her parents Latino, and they
call her Mija all the time.
They never shied away from expressing their culture, which I thought was really great, because I mean, a lot of misrepresentation about Latinas or people of color in general, it's just not great. So to have Latinas and Latinos in that kind of position and power, and have a Latina who is smart and beautiful and strong-willed at the same time, and not just be stereotypical, like maids or whatever, like to kind of have a really strong-willed Latina character there, it's pretty huge, and it's a pretty great representation. So, I mean, kudos to Riverdale. It's doing good sometimes, but it's still really just kind of scratching the surface of what else could have been done.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's tons of other characters, and we can go like just hours and hours talking about it. But the one thing that I think is just very, very, very far is the two boys. Archie was very close in season 1 to be his comic person, but Jughead is just a completely different person.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of how Jughead is written in this.
It's just so brooding,
and
all
I
the
don't,
time, man.
I don't know if it was intentional for him to be in a relationship with Betty, or if it was something that it was steered into, but because it had become so popular, they decided to keep it. Mm-hmm. But the Jughead that I have known always, his sexuality is, he's asexual to me.
He likes food. That's
if
what
anything,
I know.
his sexuality is hamburgers.
Exactly.
And you explore a lot of that in the comics, and when you get to know characters like him, you know that that's who he is. So to kind of have him be in a relationship with Betty is, they have great chemistry for sure.
Those two, yes.
Yeah.
Those two actors, yeah.
But I think it's for me, it's still hard to kind of let go of the Jughead that we all knew and loved in the comics.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm happy about as well, though, is the introduction of LGBT characters in Riverdale. One of them, season 1, right off the bat, we knew Kevin was our representation for gay men. Growing up in a small town as well, I think that's a very important storyline. Mm-hmm. And his kind of relationship, or kind of almost relationship, with Moose. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of part-time lovers in whatever the hell, like maybe the woods or maybe the whatever areas.
Well, in the original comics, the introduction of Kevin Keller, when they introduced Kevin Keller in the Archie comics, he was introduced as pretty much their first LGBT character.
Great.
And for Archie comics, knowing that how it was back in the day, where
mm-hmm.
it was it seemed very all-American kind of conservative thing. For them to kind of introduce, like, hey, like, we have LGBT characters in Riverdale.
Yeah.
They exist. Here's one, Kevin Keller. Like, it sucks that it had to happen, like, in the 2000s.
Yeah.
But I mean, the fact that he was introduced at all, it's pretty huge, especially for a comic that's very much synonymous with all-American and mm-hmm. kind of conservative and good.
Yeah, white picket fence.
Yeah, white picket fence, kind of perfect, Stepford wife type of neighborhood.
And speaking of Stepford wives, and I say that just because Cheryl Blossom, we have to talk about our Cheryl. Yeah. First season, I was like, God, she's awfully close to her brother. And it was like an uncomfortable kind of close. And then season 2, we find out that Southside Serpent's Tony and her was kind of, would you call that queer baiting still?
I would still call that queer baiting, because I think for us, I mean, yeah, it's great. Like, it's confirmed, it's canon. Cheryl and Tony, or Choni, they're a thing. They're together now. But it still bugs. I still do consider it queer baiting, in that the writers have all these scenes written and filmed for them, and they decided not even to show them in the final cut, which is it is still queer baiting on my end, because you guys can't promise this thing to happen all season, and then when it does happen,
they drop it.
You just acknowledge it and then just let it go, and then just do hours and hours on end of, Betty and Jughead. Yeah. Which, I mean, again, they have really good chemistry, but in terms of LGBTQ representation, you need Cheryl and Tony to be in the spotlight. And I've always really liked Cheryl. She's had just really great one-liners.
Best one-liners, yeah, man.
And yeah, for her to kind of finally get her happy moments, I thought it was very lovely, and very well deserved, because Cheryl has been through some things. She's been through some things,
and it hit a little close to home there when she was sent into this kind of convent, but it looked like an insane asylum, kind of Arkham Asylum style convent, where they stuck her in a room to pray the gay away. That's, if anybody in our listeners here that is part of the LGBT community, I'm part of that community too, and it really, really sucks to be misunderstood. And I applaud Riverdale for bringing that into the mainstream and letting people know that that kind of stuff really does happen. Maybe not in an Arkham Asylum kind of way, but it does happen. So kudos to you guys for doing that.
And at the same time, even though we are acknowledging that you guys are doing it, we still need more, and we still need better. Not even Riverdale. This can be a call out to any single kind of TV show or movie or whatever. We need more proper bisexual representation.
And you know what? Let us write it. Let people in the LGBT community write that story for you.
They know it better than anyone else. Yeah. And, you know, for like us, bisexual representation is incredibly important because it's not something that we see all the time, or it's not something that's properly explored that give people enough information in terms of, you know, like, you know, we want the bi kids to know that they're welcome to. We want the bi kids to know that they are just as part of, you know, this group as anyone else.
That's right. And bi kids do get enough flack for not quote unquote choosing a side. It sucks. So, you know, we call you guys out. You know, we're here for you, and hopefully you guys are paying attention to these shows, and if you guys are creators, you guys are the next generation, do something about it.
Yeah. If you guys don't like what's being seen, the best thing to do is just, you know, it's what Her Royal Highness Meghan Markle said, that if there's not a seat at the table, you create your own table, or you bring your own table.
That's right. We did it both today. We brought a table. We're sitting in it.
Literally.
Like we're literally doing that right now. And to also put a point of view to the people and the demographics watching this show, there are two genius things that they've done. They brought kids that look like they could come out of Pretty Little Liars, because that show was so successful. And then for us, I would say from the late 20s to, I would even say early 40s, you bring people in like Luke Perry, Skeet Ulrich,
Machen Amick,
and Molly Ringwald in season 1. And now you've got parents who are interested, and you've got kids who are interested. So, you know, I think everyone wins now.
It's definitely a show for everyone, in the sense that I will watch it with my cousin, and she'll like it because of the kids or of the teens, and I'll like it because of the daddies. Specifically one daddy.
Yeah.
F.P. Jones.
That's right.
Skeet Ulrich, call me.
Yeah.
He, like, okay, I'm going to talk to Skeet right now. Skeet, you have literally been my crush since 1997 or 8.
What movie was he in around that time?
For me, it was The Craft and Scream. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't know how telling it is of me as a person to be in love with a serial killer, because you did play a serial killer in Scream, but
yeah, I know, man. What does that say about you?
You had that bad boy appeal. And it was just, you got better with age. So, you know what?
He did, actually, I think so.
I feel this. So
you feel that, eh?
Call me up.
I'm all about Betty's mom.
You know what?
Betty's mom is really hot, man.
Machen Amick is also a 90s, just a 90s queen.
Yeah.
She was in Twin Peaks.
Yep.
She was in... Oh, you guys might have to correct me on this, but it was a movie where she was a teenage girl, and she fell in love with this guy, and he had this weirdly ancestral relationship with his mom, and they were like, they were cat people, like literally like they turned into cats or something. It was such a weird...
She's been through some things too.
It's a weird movie, but I just remember kind of that was the first time I was ever exposed to her, and she's just really great too. And she was in another favorite show of mine back in, not even back in the day, but early 2000s. It was called Witches of Eastwick.
Right.
So she was in that guilty pleasure show as well, and she played the kind of cool hip aunt. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Machen Amick is top notch.
Yeah,
she's amazing.
Top notch. So season 2, why did we loaf on watching this one? I kind of felt like, I mean, even with you, when I was calling you and you're like, hey, did you finish it? And you're like, no, not yet. You were loafing as much as I was, but I was gonna say I loafed it a little bit more. But
I didn't feel a sense of urgency to watch it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just kind of how I'm watching things now just with Netflix making everything easily accessible to kind of binge. So I know I'll get to it eventually. It's more of I'll get to it on my own time. But it might have just also been just, you know, everything was just... It's one of those things where